Hello! Robert John Hadfield here at Utah South Studios. Welcome to Success in the West. This is going to be an exciting day today. It is a beautiful day in St. George, Utah, to say the least. We are getting towards the end of August, and we have not had what I consider a blistering hot summer yet, which is kind of amazing because every year about this time in St. George, Utah, it is usually hot 24 hours a day, but it has been absolutely gorgeous. We are living in one of the most beautiful, awesome places in the world in St. George, Utah. And we are right now broadcasting out to the Chamber of Commerce, St. George Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. So welcome everybody that's watching this. And we have something super exciting to talk about today. And I have with me Dave McQuivey. Dave McQuivey.
Correct, yes.
And he owns, it's BodyFix Medical.
Correct.
That's the name of the place. So we're going to talk a little bit about BodyFix Medical, what it's all about, what you guys do. And how, by the way, how long have you been in St. George?
We've been in St. George for just over a year.
Okay.
But as far as the practice itself, we've been open since November of last year.
Okay. Very good. So where were you before St. George?
We lived in Vancouver, Washington.
No kidding.
So
this is a change.
This is a big change.
So that comment I made about living in the in the summer, is this your first summer here?
Yes,
officially then?
It has been my first summer.
Okay, you have not experienced St. George summer officially yet, unless you've been here before.
My wife was here last summer, and so I came down to visit a couple times, but not full time.
Okay.
So this is my first full time summer.
So you've had it good.
It's pretty crazy.
Is this the most beautiful place in the world?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of the most beautiful places. I have to say the Northwest during the summer months is a pretty beautiful place.
I've spent some time up there. I actually did a big project at SeaTac several years ago, some video work, and so yes, the Northwest is definitely beautiful. So anyway, so Dave, so BodyFix Medical, what is BodyFix Medical exactly?
So we are a general functional medical practice that we incorporate a lot of kind of approaches to healthcare, but it's really a preventative and proactive approach to healthcare. So people that are interested in coming in to just kind of see where they're at, do a general physical. We do lab work, quite a bit of lab work, just to help them kind of get a baseline and determine, what's going on physiologically inside their body. I use the analogy all the time. I kind of like to lift up their hood and check on what's going on underneath the hood. But we do general chemistry lab work. We also do a really interesting test that's called micronutrient testing. And it's basically looking at micronutrient deficiencies. So vitamins and minerals and certain antioxidants and things like that somebody might be deficient in. We look at that as well. So it's really just kind of a general approach to healthcare, kind of helping people, figure out what they can do to make themselves feel better.
When you start talking about micronutrients, what are the things, what would drive somebody to come visit you? Because what I start asking myself is, you're getting into this really fine-tuning of the human body.
Correct.
And so what are the kinds of, I don't know what the word, symptoms, or what are the kind of things people are thinking, I should really go get this stuff checked out?
So some of the symptoms they come in, it's basically they just feel down. They feel fatigued. Just they have a hard time kind of getting motivated. That drive, that we have when, well, I can say it because I'm older, but when we're younger, we have that drive and that motivation to get up and go. Some people, as we get older, that drive goes away and the motivation wanes a little bit. And so those are some of the things we help people try to get back. It's just that energy and that wanting to get up and greet the day and get out and do things.
I think that's probably it's a pretty common issue in general.
It's a big time common issue.
So what is the most common thing that you run into when it comes to doing these lab tests? I'm curious.
So a lot of things we've run into is a lot of times hormone deficiencies are overlooked. So a lot of people that come in that don't feel good, that maybe feel depressed or feel anxious, they don't quite understand why. They can't put a finger on it. And so one of the things that we do is we look at a chemistry panel, looks at their kidneys and their liver and their proteins and their electrolytes and sugar. And sometimes we find sugar issues, but we also look for anemia, people that have low blood counts or what we call hemoglobin hematocrit levels. Sometimes that can make them feel fatigued. But what we find a lot of times when people come in, especially of age, or even young people too, will find that their hormones seem to be somewhat deficient, in a lot of ways, or imbalanced or not optimized. And so what we do is try to help them optimize in whatever way we can.
But you even do things like just basic physicals too.
Right. Yeah, just basic and comprehensive physicals. So, with the physical, we have them come in and, if they're concerned about, something that they found or something that's going on with their physical body, as well as some of the symptoms that they're experiencing that may correlate with, some of their findings. We just do a general physical in clinic, and then we correlate that with the lab work that we get.
Very interesting. So tell me a little bit about the age range of the people you usually work with then.
So the age range varies from, healthcare for men and women. So anywhere from young adults, or even teenagers to, I say the young at heart, but people that are in their 80s and 90s. I've worked with men and women that just really struggle, greeting the day and getting out there and doing things, or women and men that are going through andropause or menopause that really struggle with some of the things that they need to just kind of get going. But it's that wide range of patients that we do see.
Okay, you just said a word I don't think I've heard before.
Andropause.
Andropause. What is
so? Andropause is male menopause.
I was going to say it must be the male version of
since
it went along with menopause when you said it.
Yeah. So androgen, which is it's like testosterone. It's the male version of a hormone, testosterone. So
Okay.
andropause, like menopause, is just basically the pausing of the ability to produce testosterone, or the inability to produce it. And so we look at that in men as we would in women, and that's common because we hear about that all the time with women going through menopause.
Mm-hmm.
We don't discuss it much with men, or men don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, I've never even
think about it.
never even heard of it
Yeah.
until right this second,
Yeah.
which is kind of embarrassing. I guess I should have, especially at my age. So that's really what would be the symptoms for a male then dealing with that?
So again, the energy, the drive,
Okay.
the motivation, sometimes mood kind of goes along with that. A lot of guys, the mental clarity. There's some guys that talk about mental fog, so they experience that quite a bit. They come in and especially a lot of professionals, that are out there and they're trying to struggle to get through a work day, and they just don't have that clarity that they feel they need, that edge. That's one of the things we try to work through with them, or investigate, through some of the things that we do. And then obviously some of the common stuff, the bedroom stuff, so if they, have a decreased in libido or sex drive, or if they have erectile dysfunction, those are some of the things that we discuss with men. Sensitive subjects and topics with guys that may not necessarily want to talk about
Right.
it, but it's really important, for a lot of people to maintain that relationship with their significant others.
So when you run these tests, male or female, and you're going through, how much of this stuff is hormone related? And then you have talked about micronutrients too. What do you do about that?
So there's a lot of different things that we do. First of all, the thing that I address with patients is kind of lifestyle modifications, just things that we can do on our own to kind of help improve those things, to help improve their symptoms. And so sometimes diet's a big part of it. Sleep. Like, one of the things that people don't realize is if we are not getting a good restful night's sleep, or a deep, we call it REM sleep, which I'm sure you've heard of that before. If we're not getting into a good REM sleep, we're not able to kind of recharge some of the hormones that we may be deficient in. And so a lot of people that have like sleep apnea, you've heard of sleep apnea, or difficulty breathing at night when we're sleeping, people that snore loudly and get interrupted sleep at night, or even restless legs through the night, they're not getting a good deep sleep. And so sometimes that can affect their hormones and have an impact. And so, we investigate all that and try to help them figure out what might be an issue. And so we incorporate dietary, lifestyle modifications, into their life, help them improve those things a little bit initially. And then we'll incorporate maybe some medications, if necessary. And sometimes those would include, for males, sometimes testosterone in many different forms. Sometimes certain over-the-counter supplements can be helpful for that. But testosterone injections, sometimes we'll use creams. We'll use what I like to consider as we work through blood work and we investigate where they're at. There's different forms of low testosterone, but we try to determine whether or not they can produce their own. And so there's certain blood tests that we can do for that to see if they have the ability to kind of enhance some of these trigger hormones that help them maintain their own function for a longer period of time. And so there's those things that we'll use, certain enhancement medications, I call them, to help improve their own function. And that's where functional medicine kind of comes into it a little bit. And then we'd use pellets. Pellets are kind of a lot of people like to use the term bioidentical. And it's a form of just for both men and women to incorporate hormones into their body that become a little bit more natural and how we produce or used to produce hormones, at a certain time. But that's kind of those types of techniques and medications are some of the things that we'll use to help optimize hormone levels.
So you said the word pellets. Mm-hmm. When you say pellets, I'm thinking of...
Yeah. So it's like if you think of a Tic Tac.
Okay.
Just smaller than a Tic Tac. And they go underneath the skin. And so between the dermis, which is the lower layer of the skin, and the muscle layer. So we have our fat tissue. Okay. We call it the subcutaneous tissue. And we slide the pellets through a procedure that we perform. We make just a very small incision through the skin. It's just a little puncture incision, enough to put a hollow needle. We call it a trocar. And we put that underneath the skin, and we slide the pellets underneath the skin. And they're just a tiny, tiny, people call it a grain of rice. I call it just smaller than a Tic Tac, but they're that small. And we put, depending on the person's laboratory work, we put the appropriate amount in for each person.
And these things have hormones in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've actually known people that have done this.
Yes.
And they swear by it.
Yeah, it's great.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, they're designed to dissolve over a period of time, anywhere from 4 to 9 months.
Right, okay.
Depending on the individual and how fast that particular person may metabolize that. Sometimes it can be a little bit shorter depending on, their metabolic activity, how active they are. But they're very effective, especially for people that really struggle, menopausal women, andropausal men, like we talked about. But yeah, they do very well with it. And it's convenient. So the convenience about the pellets, rather than coming into an injection on a weekly or biweekly basis, the pellets are very convenient because you do a procedure every 4 to 6 months, potentially, depending on, again, your values. And it's kind of do it and you're done, for a period of time. And then we have them come back for blood work just to make sure that their values are appropriate, and then we adjust accordingly, for the next procedure or whatever we need to do to help them, again, optimize.
Wow, interesting. Mm-hmm. And you all have kind of an unusual, I say unusual, but it's not unusual anymore, because I'm an older guy, and I grew up in the world of, you have a family doctor, insurance that takes care of your visits to the doctor, and all the stuff that was just kind of the way it was. But the medical world has changed dramatically over the last probably decade, or anyway, in the last 10, 20 years, on how this stuff is delivered. And so I know you guys, you call it a concierge service, right?
Correct.
So what does that mean exactly to somebody?
So like you said, it's really changed over the last decade, and it really has. And it's to make it more, convenient for patients, but also a little bit more affordable. in some ways what we do is concierge means fee for service. So basically they're going to pay a fee for when they come in, they receive their services. We don't bill insurance through our office. And that's a big part of the change, and a lot of medical clinics out there struggle, with billing insurances because of reimbursement, reimbursement rates. This is nothing new. This is something that we've been struggling with for many years. And so this is one of the kind of, solutions or ways that we've been able to kind of see through this issue, is to be able to charge patients up front for, I wouldn't say a discounted fee, but for a fee that's fair, for both the patients and for the clinic. And then what we do is we give them what we call a super bill or a health insurance claim form. And that health insurance claim form, the patients can actually take, and they can submit it to their insurance companies for reimbursement. And so even though we may be, say, out of network, because, a lot of insurance companies will require a person to be in network to get, the insurance coverage that they need, through their policy. We, even though we're out of network, still can be, or the patients can be reimbursed to a certain extent for the services that we provide, as long as they provide them the appropriate codes and the information that the insurance companies need for reimbursement. So it makes it, I think, in some cases, a win-win situation for both the patients and us. They may need to do a little bit of work, but more and more insurance companies are willing to do that because of the change, like you mentioned, that's been taking place.
Yeah, it has been a good change for, I think for everybody. Because I don't know, the last time I went to a doctor and I didn't just pay for it. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it that way for a long, long time because because I haven't worked for a company, that provides insurance for a long, long time. I've just had to pay for my own. What it means is that I basically just have a deductible, and then everything else I just pay for. And it's interesting because whenever I'm working with a doctor, and I just say I'm just paying for this out of my pocket, I always get a discount.
Right.
There's a discounted rate for me just
exactly
writing them, just handing them my card right then and getting it taken care of.
And a lot of people now, they'll have a major medical insurance plan, but then they'll have a health savings account.
Right.
That you can actually, it's a tax-free,
tax-deductible
health savings account that people will use for these services. And it works out really well. So there's a lot of companies out there that promote those services, which I actually endorse, just because I think it's a better way for people to be in charge of their own health, to be able to use that money the way that they want to.
Yeah, makes sense. So you're in St. George.
We're in St. George. We're off Dixie Drive. So we're over by Dixie Commons, which is on.
Okay.
It's called Silicon Drive, and it's just up from Dixie Commons as you're coming from the freeway, past the light at Dixie Commons. There's another turn. You'll hit a median with some trees on it, and then that turn right after that is where you kind of turn into our street, and then we're kind of tucked back in a garden building back behind just a little bit by a roundabout there.
And do you all take new patients?
We take new patients.
Okay.
We want to help as many people as we can.
Gotcha.
So we encourage people to come in.
Very good.
Because that's what we're about, is we just want people to feel better.
So how do people, I'm sure you have a website, social media presence. I mean, how do people get a hold of you then? So
our website is www.bodyfixmedical.com. That's our website, and our phone number is 435-254-2662 for now. That will be changing because we're having some telephone issues. But as far as right now, though, that is our phone number to reach us at. But as far as our website, we can be able to get a hold of us.
But all that stuff's always getting updated or
that's
on
always
your website,
getting updated.
wherever it happens,
exactly.
where it happens to be at that point. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, thank you very much
for this is super interesting because especially when you start talking about something that probably affects me and I don't realize it. I'd never even heard of Was it andropause again?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
It's called andropause.
Why do I feel like such an idiot that I'd never heard that term before?
Well, you shouldn't, because there's a lot of people that haven't.
But you'd be in your 50s like me, right?
Yeah.
I'm an older guy.
I'm an older guy too.
That's got to be anyway.
I'm here, but that's what I'm here for, is to educate people. So that's my job as a provider, and my passion is to educate people about stuff like this. And so that's one of the reasons why we are preventative, proactive healthcare with a functional approach to healthcare, is to help people understand why they feel the way they feel and how they can feel better.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Well, Dave, thanks for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It's
I
awesome.
appreciate
So,
it.
hey, and thanks for watching. And you've been watching Success in the West, broadcasting out of St. George, Utah. If you have any interest in joining us here in the studio and talking to us about your business, we'd love to have you. And with that, have a fantastic day.